All right. I believe I am recording.
That's good.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah, why not? Someone is talking, or was that on your end, Joe?
It's probably me. As always, I have everyone muted just for simplicity, so we don't talk over each other. So I'm Joe Glines, and I'm out of Dallas, Texas, and I am not a programmer and don't pretend to be one. I love automating and simplifying my life with AutoHotkey or whatever tool that I can use to do that. AutoHotkey, I kind of think of it as a Swiss Army knife. That it has a lot of applications if you're a Windows user, so I love using it. And then a couple years ago, I kept getting support from Jackie on the forum, and so him and I have been chatting now for a couple years. And Jackie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, we have Joe for sure, and yeah, I'm Jackie Stook, and I've also been using AutoHotkey for quite some years now. I keep forgetting for how long, but it's an okay number of years at least. Maybe about 4, maybe 5, something like that. I've used a lot of different aspects of it, but I keep coming back to a few specifics like this RegEx each time an issue comes up in the forum or something else. It's nice to try your abilities on RegEx once in a while. So yeah.
I kind of view RegEx as like a Sudoku, when I'm wanting a problem to solve. Even, if I don't have something in particular, it's fun. It can also mean I'm beating my head against a wall, right? But it can be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, it has that that kind of feel like you're actually trying to solve a puzzle. So yeah, in that way it can be.
Yep. So as I mentioned earlier, right, we start muted just so we're not all trying to talk over each other. And then we don't have too many slides to go through this deck, but we're going to love some input on, we'll build some regular expressions and just play with them. And so at some point I'll turn off where it'll allow you guys to unmute yourselves, and then anyone can talk. It's just we don't want to try to talk over each other because it gets to be crazy. But you can raise your hand or do in the chat, and I will do my best to monitor that if you do. So just raise your hand or ask a question in the chat, and we'll try to answer it as we go. Why don't I go ahead and talk to this since it's simple and I can handle this, I think. So what are regular expressions, right? Or RegEx is just so much easier to say. So the best definition I found was symbols that describe a text pattern, right? So you're always dealing with text, some sort of text, and you're looking at that text, trying to find some sort of pattern within it. And one of the things that I thought of was, even though we don't think of them as RegEx, but you probably, even if you've never done one, you've used either the asterisk, when you're searching for a file for a wildcard character. You've used them there. When you enter your email address in a website and it says, no, enter a valid email address or a phone number, they are doing pattern matching in the back end to detect if you've entered the right values or not. And so that's what they're doing there. Or just searching, replacing in a file. Like for years, I would use Word, because Word has, even though it's not RegEx stuff, that you can do pretty complex pattern matching with Word search and replace. So that was my go-to for years. Or things like that's what the spell check is doing with finding duplicate words, right? Or I should say grammar checker. And then when to use RegEx for functions. So you can really do like the same stuff overall with either RegEx or with functions like string replace and InStr and stuff, right? The question is, when should you use one over the other? And if you're hitting a big amount of text, right, really large amount of text, and the pattern isn't complex, you probably want to use these functions instead. Probably, not always, right? If you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you can use other functions in combination sometimes. Or, but for sure, RegEx has the power when you have a pattern that you may be able to recognize, but that is kind of hard to specify with a string as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is, to me, which I should have said first, right, is, hey, when the thing you're searching in, which is the haystack, right, when the haystack is small, it's not going to matter anyway, right? You can use either one, and you won't really see a performance hit or difference. It's small, or you're not looping over too many things. Don't worry about it. And that was where Jackie was getting to, is when you have a complex structure, RegEx kind of builds in and has the capabilities to make that a lot easier to lay out instead of trying to write it all out using these other functions.
Yeah. That's a good way of summing it up, at least. Where sometimes you can much easier hit up, let's say, a combination of symbols that are not exactly the same as you would if you needed to do it with a string, by simply having a specific symbol follows something else, like a word character or a number of varying numbers, as an example, might be actually a good example. That would be quite hard to do with one of the string functions, where RegEx would.
Yeah, do it with very little amount of work. Yeah. The next one, I just want to talk to at a high level, right? I mean, in AutoHotkey, there's RegExMatch and RegExReplace. And when I first started using both of these functions, one was I didn't really understand. I mean, I knew by the name, right? One you're matching, one you're replacing something. But it still confused me they seem to behave very differently. And when I finally realized, hey, RegExMatch searches through your haystack, and when it finds the first match, it'll stop processing and not move forward, versus RegExReplace keeps going through it unless you've told it to stop on the first match, right, or the second or third or whatever. It keeps going and processing that. So that was by far, to me, like the lightning bolt, that when I finally understood that, it made a lot of sense.
It can make RegExReplace seem much more versatile. But as soon as you actually know the limitations of RegExMatch, you can also use that to your advantage.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, it's very easy to adapt to that and just put it into a loop.
Yeah.
And then the other great thing, though, with RegExMatch, which is that it dumps that match. There's an option, which I guess I can put here just for to have it here. The O option, which will return your match and dump it into an object, which is great if you need it. If you need other
again, sometimes I remember at least sometimes being in a few, I don't know if I should call it discussions, but at least some back and forth on when to actually create an object to do stuff.
Oh, right.
In string and others, string split, and if that's actually, and it creates overheat and when is an object needed and stuff like that. We have talked about this back and forth before, Joe.
Right.
But as we are not really true programmers, and our projects are often so small that the resources that we use within our scripts are often negligible. We simply just use it if we feel that it makes more sense for our need.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's see. I just wanted, just because they are important, right? We'll get into it, and Jackie will elaborate on this and use them in his regular expression when he's writing them. But I'd be remiss if we didn't mention up front, that there's, if you want to treat your text as multi-line, so basically treat each line as a separate thing, you want to use this M option. And then ungreedy, if you do want it to stop at the first match and not keep going on and on and on and match the very last one, you can use this U. The X, which I rarely use it. However, if you have a really complex regular expression, it'll allow you where you can ignore white space and then actually insert comments in your regular expression, which I can pull it up later on maybe if you want to see an example. But it on a really complex one, it's nice to be able to insert comments throughout your regular expression. This call-out mode thing, I was playing with it earlier. It can help you see where you are and what you're doing in it, but it's pretty complicated and kind of convoluted. And Chad Mistress was saying, you know, a lot of the stuff in the object gives you a lot of the same information. And that's, again, here in the RegExMatch, the option O can return your results in an object.
Yeah. I remember I don't use, let's say, on greedy. I don't remember using it. I may have used it at some point. The X, I don't remember ever having used the X option. The M, yeah. The O, for sure. The C, I've only used the C option a few times. And one of them I had, I only vaguely remember it. It was something with, yeah, I think I can't say I used it wrong because I actually got it to work, but I used it for something that it might not have been intended for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could probably find the code because I can't remember why I needed to do it that way. But
yeah.
Hey. Yeah.
I see Cap Noden's note in there. And yeah, the if, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but when you use the capital U in the option, it makes the entire thing ungreedy, versus if you use the question mark in your regular expression itself, you can specify where you want it to be ungreedy.
Yeah.
All right. And then I went through and just from a website, I grabbed some of these, which we're going to talk to, right? And obviously we'll send out this deck later on, and I'm sure a lot of you have used these. But I went through and grabbed some of the different symbols, right, or different things that you can do. And I highlighted, or I color-coded the things in red, and the things that I use pretty regularly in the symbols and what they mean. Let's see if we want to talk to any of, you know, the dot can mean any character. It's we were reading earlier that with Maestriath and I, but that the dot will match any character up to or not including a new line, but
yeah,
we were empirically testing it, and that's not how it was acting.
No, that's also because that's one way to have it. But AutoHotkey has also its own stuff set up, so you need to reference whatever it is doing with the way that you have set it up in your script. So you have the dot match all option or whatever it's called.
The dot all, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's only a specific types of new lines it won't match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I can't remember the actual definition in the documentation.
And then, you know what, I should have highlighted these because, especially on a multi-line thing, I will use these a fair amount of, I want it starts with a certain thing, right,
Yeah.
or at the very end of the line. And that, of course, can really speed up your search as well because you're anchoring it to the beginning or the end.
Yeah, and those get extra special meaning when you're using either the multi-line option or not.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Right. And then these are awesome, right? The /W or /S and /D, which are just abbreviates for one. Each character is either a digit, white space, or a word, or you can capitalize them and they take the invert of whatever it is they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have the word border? No.
Yeah. The boundary.
Oh, you have it there. Okay, I can't see everything because I have the chat open.
Ah.
That's just how that is. Yeah, fair enough. As long as it's there, that's.
And then these are obviously very important too. The asterisk is, it's incredibly greedy, and when you say greedy, meaning it'll match virtually anything, right? Of the star means 0 or more times of whatever was before it, which that's incredibly greedy. question mark 0 or 1, unless it's you. Well, which is, I'm sorry, that is like basically makes it optional, right? That it
Yeah.
is. The plus means one. It has to be there at least once, if not more times.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, I'd say between here, I don't normally say n or more times, but saying I want exactly this number or a range between, like especially let's say zip codes. Well, actually, that's a bad example. That'd be 5 digits for me all the time. Age groups of kids I'm doing where they need to be between 2 digits and 3 digits, something like that. Right?
3 digits of kids. Oh, so a number of kids, or
no, it was the anyway. It doesn't matter, but you understand the range. There's X number, either 2 to 4, like dates, right? So 2 digits, for the months. So 0 or 1, right? Because that sometimes months for the U.S. at least will drop off the 0. Sometimes it has it, and you can say, all right, it's got to be 1 to 2, right? Digits, which is really helpful. And then the year, of course, people can put in 2 or maybe 4. So that's how I use those.
I can see that one of our tools has been shared in the chat already 2 times. I like the RegEx 101.com. I really feel that is a great tool.
We have
get to that.
We have some. We have a slide that goes over a bunch of different resources.
It was in the chat, so just wanted to. Yeah, but with this you have something on the non-greedy matching. Where did you get that from? Oh, that's okay. Okay, I just needed to understand what you were actually doing on the line below. So yeah. It was just because you had the RegEx P, and then you had the. I got the idea of it now.
Okay. And then obviously, and it depends, of course, where you are in your expression, but pay special note when you're searching for these types of characters. And actually, you know what? This is one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the double quote, which that's putting in a smart quote, you do have to treat it a little special, right?
Yeah, that's in reference to AutoHotkey, because you actually use that around your pattern or the string that is your RegEx pattern. So if you have those in there, you need to handle those correctly.
Yeah,
and it's a matter of putting them in there enough times to actually.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that in here. Just so we have a reference to it. And let's go on to the next one. So here, we're not going to go through all these, but I'll explain how I've grouped them. So under AutoHotkey, in particular to AutoHotkey, there are these different, these are straight off of the documentation. Here's a good forum thread with some good questions and talking about stuff. There's a great tutorial. I have, I think, like a dozen videos talking through just some, and doing examples of using them. And then there's these different tools, one of which is, I guess I closed it. Let me see if I of course, have a hotkey to launch it. This is the expressive tool, which you can dynamically, type in stuff and see it get highlighted as you do it. And there are these 3 other tools that are built in AutoHotkey for AutoHotkey. And then, as Jackie was mentioning, there's the RegEx 101. So these are websites that you can do similar stuff.
What's interesting about the websites, if we just stall on those or a little, is that the RegEx 101 is actually using, as I remember it, the same flavor of RegEx that AutoHotkey is using. Yeah, but the PHP version there, which is nice to know, because sometimes you could make a pattern work on any of these online testers, but it might not work in your script if it's not using the same flavor of RegEx.
Yeah, and a lot of them, I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but as you can see on this one, often you can change it. So just make sure, like this is, if I remember right, the default is that, which is reduces the chance of you doing it incorrectly.
Yeah, but if you try one of the other ones, most of the time the flavor will also either be hidden or non-selectable.
Fair enough.
That's how I've seen it before, at least.
Yep. And then, so these are 3 websites where you can do that. And I think actually RegEx 1, I didn't have that one. I'll go ahead and grab that from the chat and throw it in here just so we have it. And then here are other resources. Now, again, but even though Jackie said, just make sure you do the, is it PRCE or PCR?
PCRE.
Compatible, yeah, regular expression. So make sure you're using that on these because they're not built in AutoHotkey necessarily for AutoHotkey. So just make sure you pay attention to that. Here are some other tools. I've used both of these. These are programs you can download. So, which is nice, of course, if you're not online, you can have a tool that will run locally. I have worked through this course by Kevin Skoglund, and it is awesome. It's a great course on regular expressions. Mm-hmm. It's a little too concise. He's so, quick and understands it so well. I find myself having to pause it and really work through the stuff. But it was really good. There's actually a book by Jack Dunning on regular expressions in AutoHotkey, and I have that book and worked through it, and it helped me get some fundamentals down when I was having issues with some of them. And then I'm just plugging this book. I have this book as well. I have, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 other regular expression books, but this one was pretty good. All right, so let's have some fun. Let's, you know what, I'm going to shrink this a little bit, and then we'll keep it handy. And Jackie, I will pass you the control. And I'll take a nap.
Yeah, I'm totally ready for this. No, I'll try to. I'm just busy, but that's how that is. So let's see, what are we going to do?
Let's demonstrate just classes as a simple, using like a range, right?
Yeah, I'm just getting this here, making sure that my keys are going through. So they were. So yeah, with let's say we are using RegExMatch. It returns the pose or the position within the string that it has found the match. So let's start with that pose, and then go from there. And here we need to specify the hey string, as you can see, Sadie is telling us about here. And Joe has already made it for us and put it in a variable that's called string. So let's use that. And for the needle, I can see you have classes. Can you move it a little more to the left, Joe? Or should I do it myself? Yeah, thank you. So I start by putting into square brackets here. And let's say we wanted to find...
Don't you need to have quotes around that?
Yeah, I do, but...
Okay. Just making sure. Sure.
At the moment, I'm just building the pattern, but we can put it around there as well. We can also close it off, but at the moment that would be too early. What do we want to pattern here? We could either look for...
Let's look for vowels.
Yeah, we could look for vowels. That would be okay. I think that's...
Well, or just do that. That's fine. Yeah. That's a range.
Doesn't it actually then just look for A, B, C, D, E?
Right.
Or should we actually define?
Well, let's do one and then change it to the other to demonstrate, how the two different things work.
That. That didn't actually do what I wanted it to do. It does not. Yeah. Okay, so if I just wanted to I have totally messed up this. It's because it's lacking a little.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not getting what I wanted there. And the unquoted, and I remember that's way back, getting stomped on this unquoted output variable.
Yeah.
And it means what it says. You should put in a name of a variable here, but you shouldn't quote it because you don't want to give it a string. So if I wanted to put it in, let's say, a variable that we can call it match, just as an example. And as you can see, the default over here is starting pose for the next parameter. And as we want it to start at position 1, we can simply leave it out because it's optional. So let's do that. So now, what we have now is it will look through string for A until E. So if I wanted to show what it found, or maybe how many it found, I could do match 1, or just match perhaps. Then you can see it found an E, and that's probably the E here in there, or it's that should be the 1, right?
Well, yeah. Once you add a tab and then the POS, and then we'll, because the POS will be the position of where it found it, right?
Yeah. We can put in a space here just to do something. No, we'll do it this way. And then we can see the pose of it here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the third E there. Again, this is RegExMatch, so it stops as soon as it's find either one of the letters in this range from A to E. And the first one it finds is this E here. Then it stops and gives us the entire match, which is E. Okay, so it ran twice there. I'm just reading the chat. Is there anything interesting down there, Joe, or are people just chatting? Like
they were saying the match versus match 1, and then basically saying the pseudo array.
Yeah, but at the moment, ain't we actually using the pseudo array version? Am I remembering wrongly?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat. I didn't hear you.
No, I was just unsure about the match and the match 1.
Yeah.
But as I remember, the version that we're using right now will generate a pseudo array.
Right.
So
right.
If there were multiple ones, that should be how it was. And again, do you often use these, Joe? Or do you use the auto? Yeah, the auto trancune, or whatever it's called.
You're asking about the dots to concatenate it?
Yeah.
I usually do. I like having them in there. It just helps remind me that I'm joining things.
Yeah, exactly. So if we wanted to, we could look for more in here. We could also look for, let's say, 1, or is it the other way? Is it 0 to 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we look for that, we'll instead get the 3, and it's in position 29, 39. Was
39.
It?
Yep.
I can't see the message boxes.
Yeah, it you can click on it, but it was 39, I believe.
Yeah, but it disappeared, and I can't see your. Oh yeah, you have it out here. Exactly. That's actually useful in this setup, Joe, that you have it there on the left.
Yeah.
Because I can't see the bottom of your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem. But should we try something else? Is that well enough for classes, or do we want?
Let's just do one more and do it. Let's use an OR. right? So why don't you say brown or fox? How's that?
Yeah, we can do that. That's the, what would you call that? That would be a vertical bar pipe. Okay, we're gonna call it pipe. So brown or fox, and if this goes as we would believe it should now give us a box that shows us brown and the pose of brown, the first character, remind you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the first thing it hits and it's the first match here.
Mm-hmm.
So if we instead, let's say, had ran here, ran and fox, which of them would it be? What would you say, Joe?
I'm going to go with fox.
Yeah, exactly. So fox and post 17. It's just to tell you that you can place it however you want. It will still look for every option in here before continuing. So yeah.
And then let's take that. Oh no, wait, this is a match. I was thinking about demonstrating groups, sub patterns.
Oh, you wanted to? Yeah, we could do that as well. Let me remove these. But I was unsure if you wanted to do the escapes or not now.
Yeah, let's do escapes. Yeah, those are by far, I think, the things I use out of anything. That I use them a ton.
Yeah, I remember having something with this, the W, as I wanted it to actually be white space. Just a weird mess up I had at one point. Yeah. But of course it's not. It's word characters. So that would often be letters, but it also includes a few other symbols. I can't remember all of them, but some of them. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe, slashes, no. Hyphens, does it include that?
I'm trying to remember.
So if, let's say we try something like this, let's see what it says. No, it does not. So that's not a word character, just to kind of be sure of that. So do you remember any that actually is an underscore?
I just don't remember. I remembered it was weird.
An underscore is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, that was just to kind of give you an idea that this W here actually tells the pattern to look for quite a specific range of things. So normal letters and a few extra symbols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can see that V or W this way is the same as a matching group, and you're absolutely right.
And then why don't you real quickly change it to a capital W, just to demonstrate how that will flip it to say not.
Yeah. This will not return anything, or it should maybe return the number. It did not return anything because there is no place where there are more than one non-word character. So, but it still found the actual space and at number 4. But I find that to be kind of weird, but that's because the plus lets you select only one. So that's why it works.
Yeah, one or more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then let's throw in the D just to...
We'll put in the D. We can change this plus to just a D. This will give us the 3 over here. You can see it there. If I put in, let's say, this one, it will let me match it or it will let me not match it. So here, it simply just matches nothing, the start of it. Because That's
Oh.
what it's about.
Yeah.
But if we instead used, let's say, one of the other ones that you had, let's say we wanted to have one number, that would work. But if we wanted to have, let's say, two numbers, this would return nothing, because there is not two numbers anywhere up here. But ran away with the 3 bears. Yeah, 44. Just to put in something that would then come up here. I think that may have been jumping the gun on that one, but
That's all right. Yeah.
Sub patterns. Do we want to make? Let's say we are looking for quick brown fox, but within here we only know that it's a quick fox, but we actually don't know its color. We could then put in here \v plus. So any number of word characters between quick, space, any number of word characters, and a space fox would then be a match for this pattern. So here.
But don't you, now we need to get the actual subgroup.
Oh, you want to show the actual subgroup.
Yeah.
And
show that we've isolated, right? Because that to me that's why I'd want to. Otherwise, you don't have to isolate it. You don't need the parents.
Oh no! Then you don't need them. No, you're absolutely right. You could do it that way. That would also work. So here, but if let's say we actually wanted to know what the color of it was and use it somewhere else, I'll just do so. And the sub pattern 1. Now I'll know that it was quick found box. Yeah, that's well. It found at the 5th position, and it found the color brown. So, yeah.
And then if just so I think people understand this, but if you were to wrap fox, that would be the second match.
Oh yeah, so if we also put that in over here, then we could do the same once more and know that for match 2. So yeah.
Yeah, I think all that's pretty, it sounds like everyone is somewhat familiar with regular expression, so I don't think this is blowing anybody's mind. How about, I don't know if you remember the syntax for this, but I love naming my subpatterns.
Yeah, of course I don't remember, but
it's question mark, capital P.
Yeah.
And then the less than, greater than sign, and then you name it within the less than, greater than sign.
Oh, it's kind of not letting me make it the way I want to.
All right, I'll do it.
Oh, that's because I have a Danish keyboard. So my for your, yeah.
All right, I'll do it. Hold on. There we go. Go ahead.
You.
Yep. And so then you can put in what word you want here.
Yeah,
right?
here we could have the color.
Right.
That did not come up, right?
I was going to say, boy, you spell color a lot differently than I do.
I can't spell color right now.
I got me confused. I don't know. Who cares? C-O-L. Yeah.
C-O-L. Yeah.
C-O-L-O-R, now that I think about it. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. So call, and then then just throw it back down in your example. This is just nice because if you're going to access that later, it makes it easy where you get to name it. You don't have to try to remember what number it was.
So here, and that would then be color. So like so. And then we would still get brown here. So, and up here, whatever that is, doesn't need to be brown. This is a red fox.
Yeah, which is a great point of, hey, if you're doing stuff where you don't know, excuse me, what's in there, as opposed to trying to do all this with in-string and this and that, I mean, you see the capabilities makes it really easy to go do this.
Yeah, that's at least in a simple form where this was easily showable. And these things can be way more complex than this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at the chat. Quick word character plus or digit plus. Yeah, okay, you can also use those patterns, but still, if you're looking for the color, why would you be looking for digits? No, it's just a question. Yeah. So now we have quantity quantifiers. We already had those, right? Quantifiers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have more on the sub patterns, or did this cover? Well,
I think that does a decent enough job on them.
Yeah. If let's say we wanted to find, instead we wanted, now just using the string that you have, we wanted to find the, in this instance. But we actually didn't want to find, let's see, if we just run this, we'll get the last here. But that's not the one we're actually after. We're after the one at the beginning. So we could put in this anchor here. It would tell it that only THE at the beginning of a string would actually match this. So if we try again, you can see this time it didn't find it.
It's not case sensitive. Yeah.
Exactly. So if we wanted to, let's say, we could actually also do it like this.
Yeah, and as Jackie's demonstrating, I mean, there's no quote unquote right way to do stuff, right? I mean, some of them are clearly easier than others, but there's a ton of different ways you can go about doing the same thing.
But that was one way of doing it. But of course, you could use, as you were about to point out, you could use. Is that a small I or is it a large?
No, it's the lowercase.
Yeah.
You forgot you lost your T. Yeah.
I did. So there. Now, yeah.
Or, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can get rid of the anchor and then make it ungreedy. Wouldn't that match the first one?
So you wanted this one instead?
Well, you can put it. I think you can put it there, or you could put the capital U in the option next to the I.
Oh, so you wanted? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You could probably do that as well.
So that's the thing is and I don't know if there's an efficiency, one over the other. I gotta think. Forcing it, anchoring it to begin at the line when you know that's the case, that's probably going to be a much faster way just because you're controlling where it starts looking and it finds it so fast.
Yeah, most likely.
All right, why don't you do one over multiple lines?
Yeah, okay. So where we use this option instead. And if we put in, let's say, how do we want to do? Let's do it like this. Quick. Brown fox ran away with 3 bears. I'm unsure if my click is actually going through.
Well, don't you have to put that paren on line 7 at the next line?
Oh, yeah, like this?
Yeah.
Of course.
And then I don't normally use the quotes like that. Is that?
Oh, this one? That's just instead of doing like so.
Oh.
It's just,
Okay.
yeah, this will work just as well.
Huh.
I need to stop clicking that play button.
I see all the, here, let me. There we go.
Thank you.
So once you show the first word, find the first word on each line. Or we're in a match. Never. You'd have to change it quite a bit for that, right? That's where I guess a replace is. No, can you do it over? I don't remember that.
You couldn't do it without a loop in this case.
Yeah.
So you could get, let's say, something like word.
Oh, that's
like
where we can.
So 5. Let's go with that one. And we want it to be at the beginning.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is anchoring it. That way you can demonstrate it looks each line separately, and it has to be at the beginning of the line. Yeah.
But for some reason, I actually didn't find this one. Do we need to join this one up for it to actually register as lines? Can't remember.
What was that?
It's just when I run this, you can see it can find quick here. But I wanted it to actually find this one brown, which is supposed to be at the beginning of this line.
Right.
And it should take them as multiple lines, so each line should be its own pattern. So by specifying this anchor here as at the beginning of the line, it should be this one.
Right.
That's not what's happening, as you can see there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this one, I'm actually just looking at it, and I can't say for sure why.
Why? Yeah. I'm with you. So that joint command.
Can you put in the backtick for me here? That's not going through from mine, and before the end as well.
No, I'm not doing the one before the end. You had it. Okay.
So
there you go. Yeah.
So that's what we talked about earlier. It not always recognizing the line as the same thing, and because AutoHotkey is doing lines as a single N, just a new line, not the return. That's something you need to specify as well.
Well, and I don't remember, but there. I don't know if this would do it, but on the quick help, there's an option, and I want to say it's like R or N or A. Maybe it's A that will treat, regardless of what kind of new line it is, it will treat them all the same. I wonder if that would. Yeah,
it sounds about right. I can't remember which of them it is. I tried to actually push this one here.
So, and I'm sure a lot of people on the webinar know this already, but this is one of those things that I got really annoyed for a long time was do your best to replicate exactly the text of how it is in what you're searching, because sometimes you'll look at what you have and you don't turn on the white space and you don't look like actually there's no carriage return, there's just new lines, and you're matching your stuff and then it doesn't work in AutoHotkey. And I have spent hours beating my head against a wall and finally realizing that I got it, Jackie.
Okay.
Something, I don't know what's with my site, but it occasionally when you do that, it'll it locks up, the help will lock it up.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whoa, were you typing?
No, I'm not doing anything.
Now it's really freaking out.
Yeah, okay.
So actually we got 9 minutes left. Let me, just since we're here, and I'll still figure this out, but let me get to the next one just because I want to demonstrate it real quickly.
Yeah.
And then we can open it up to everybody. This script I wanted to highlight, this hotkey help, it's great for noobs, right? I have it running right now. It's this heart. I think actually that's the icon it comes with. I can't recall if I did that or it was in there. But what's awesome about it is, and I changed it a little bit, but you can tell it whether you want to show what you want it to show, and now let's see when it is it open? No. Let me reload it. No. Why isn't it? Come on. All right, I'm just gonna reload it.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. So here, it will show me. It looks at all of my AutoHotkey scripts running, and shows me all of the hotkeys that I have. So it'll come up with this. And if you have, let me pull up one of my scripts. So if you have commented out, annotated the same line as the hotkey, it will pipe that in for you. So of course you have to do the work, but once you've done it, it makes a really great, easy cheat sheet for people who are new to using AutoHotkey. So you can pull this up and look at it. And then there's some other functionality, but honestly, that's like the biggest one. You can also have it show the hot strings that are running. However, because I have the spell check going and everything, it's that's why I don't enable that, because I have so many of them. But yeah, it's a great script that you can get in the forum or on this this link, which I said we'll share later. But it's incredibly helpful for noobs to be able to play with stuff. And they often, if you install AutoHotkey for somebody, they just don't remember what's running and what the hotkey is, and so it's a great script for that.
Yeah, I've seen some of the scripts that I've made or programs I've made that one of the most asked for key is the one to recall which keys to push.
Yeah,
that's true. It is.
What's funny is when I downloaded this, you had to remember the hotkey to bring up the menu.
Yeah.
And so I had to tweak it slightly just to where I could pull up the settings, because it didn't have that option, and I'm like, how ironic. But it is a very easy way to for noobs to be able to see what in the world is running and where.
Absolutely. I remember seeing either that one or some other variation of that at one point and thinking, that's really useful. And probably have it somewhere still tucked away.
This, by the way, so just because I have it handy, here is an example where I use that X option, right? And I'm also using the object option. But my regular expression, right, I have it across multiple lines. And that's what's allowed me to insert comments on each line so I can remember what in the world I was doing on that line.
But where does the ignore white space come in?
Well, this is all part of the regular. I mean, it starts from here and goes down to here, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell it to add in. I mean, it treats it all the same.
Yeah, but wouldn't that work without the X?
I don't think so. Does it?
I guess so. It's a built-in functionality of AutoHotkey to tune lines that start with a dot like that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't put in white space itself.
Okay.
But can you try it? Try and run it with the X there.
Oh, this runs. Yeah.
Formatted boxes, yeah.
Yeah, so it's getting the information.
Yeah, and how about if you remove the X? Just the X.
Oh, sorry. Oh, apparently. I thought, yeah, so, because I was reading up on it, and I thought this was the example where I had done that, but, yeah.
Yeah, the
I
white
did it,
space is if you yourself within the pattern put in white space.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. It, like I said, I did this years ago, and I just remember I had done it, and, anyway, so even without the X, think about if you have a complex one, right? Breaking it over multiple lines is why for me it makes it much easier to read.
Yeah, it is great to do that, and that's with other functions as well. But yeah, for sure, it's a great way to structure your stuff. Just the same as when you're doing, let's say, large objects or arrays and stuff like that. It's also a great functionality to split up the lines like that.
Here, let me. Yeah, this is one I did for matching email addresses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just pulling up some examples I had handy. So here's my haystack. Here's an example where we're doing a regex match, but I want to go over all of them. I don't want to stop at just the first one. So I store the position where it was found, and then I will save that and then iterate over it on the next one.
Yeah.
And put it back in here and start there next time and iterate over it. And so when let me exit out of that other script. Let me go ahead and get rid of that one to edit. So it found all three, and here I'm just dumping them into this emails variable.
Yeah.
With a line break.
Interesting that you're using the the return line break and not a new line or anything else. I don't usually append the R, but yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I usually have my built-in variable that I use, and because I wanted to make this into a video, I decided just to throw something else in there. So I just typed that and it worked. So I didn't care.
Yeah, fair enough.
The call outs, that was some interesting stuff. Let me pop one open real quickly here. Makestrith was helping me earlier, realizing this part up here is helping evaluate if it's 32-bit or 64-bit.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And so in this case, I think this is straight from the forum, but it dumps some of the different things into variables and then just says list varies to show you. But you can get the haystack, you can get, you can show the needle, which, if you're building tools to help understand the regular expression, it can be handy. But it to me, it was pretty convoluted syntax. If you're, your chances are you work with one bitness, not either, and have to deal with it. Of course, for the forum, for the documentation, they wanted to take care of that. But yeah, this. I had a hard time reading and understanding what in the world this thing was doing.
Yeah, that's also fair. I myself, I haven't even used it enough.
Yeah.
To really say where it really shines, that version of it. So it's good, but I think sometimes it's not something that you will actually end up using very often.
Oh, one more I'd like to point out, and let me see if I don't know if I have. Yeah, I have all three of them here. So when you're dealing, so this is my text, and in it I have quotes in my text, right? And so in my regular expression, I wanted to tell it, find this, which had the problem was right here. I wanted to get to 20, right? I think was my thing. I want to find out what was selected. And so this first, Jackie, you gave me this one. This is quite a while ago now, but you had me first store this in a variable, and that way you can put the quote straight in it, right? And it's okay. It'll recognize them and use them. And so then after I stored the pattern in a variable, I can dump it right in there, and it works fine.
Mm-hmm.
The second way Maestria showed me was using the is that the hex? Is that what it is? The hexadecimal address?
It probably is.
But,
I'm not sure what you would call that.
You can look it up, and it was 22, right, for the double quotes, hex code. Thank you. And so then you can dump that exactly in your regular expression, which honestly I liked even more, just because it was just easy for me to read, and I'm doing it right in my code, and I don't have to do it in 2 steps. So that was just a little bit easier. But the third one is you can actually, as Jackie says, you put them in the right number of times. In this case, I'm putting in twice. The first one, I don't want to say escapes it, because maybe that's not the right thing, but that's basically what it's doing, right? Is it's saying, hey, the next one is look for that.
Yeah.
And so when I run this, and the other one's still running. Oh. So 20 and 13, it's getting that value 20, and that one 13, 20 and 13, and 20 and 13. So that was all 3 of those doing the same thing, just 3 different approaches. I spent hours beating my head against the wall trying to figure that stuff out with the double quotes, because I don't recall it ever saying in the documentation anywhere that you had to, treat them differently. But because of the way regex, works, when you put it in here, it's surrounded by quotes. I think that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you it's surrounded by quotes, and each time it hits a double quote like that, it will actually think that the string had ended. So on the next one, it would think that the string had started up again. So you would simply just feed it a lot of string pieces, and you wouldn't even it wouldn't see the double quotes.
Right.
So.
All right, I'm going to, unless anyone has anything in particular, but I was going to stop the recording just so we can split it up, and then we can enable everybody to start chatting. All right, so remote control.